here, but again, whatever the council chooses to decide to do, you guys set the ordinances and that's your decision.
Let me make a suggestion here, area commentary from Councilman Randall. Thus far, we have not allowed public commentary and had a definitive study session or special study session where the public could comment.
This is true.
Right, or at least not within this council.
Not this.
This council. And I know that I personally would be in favor of that, and we had laid out, some upcoming meetings, but where we can make certain that number one, it's published, and number two, that people have a right to address the council. We've now had 2 meetings, maybe that's just a suggestion, but I'm trying to listen to the administration and at least one councilman. Councilwoman Whitney.
Through the chair, yeah, they did a public input survey that was sent out in social media only that limited 100 participants. So we have not gotten to me a good, I would like to see that. And touching back on the revenue, yes, there's revenue there. The $28,000 from the state, that was the first year they issued just for retail establishments, and the state didn't take their cut off the top the first year. And as more come online, that number could go down, or it could go up. I mean, if sales increase, but that's the thing, as more cities come online and there's more retail establishments, that number is not, we don't know yet. It's a number, it's something definitely to consider, but I don't know if we would continue to get $28,000 per year. The clerk has indicated increased staffing costs, and on the flip side, again, I'm not staunchly against or for. I think that some of these establishments in cities have been good corporate partners, and they've done good work in the community. And Joe even showed me some of the pictures where they can take dilapidated buildings, and so there's benefits too. Again, it's taxpayer money, and it's if we do this and we are at risk of, and I hate to keep saying the lawsuits, but we need to make sure that there's an offset to that. I mean, with looking at Westland and what they're going through is concerning to me, and how many years does it take to get that money back in revenue? And we don't know that, because we don't have good solid revenue projections.
Councilman Johnson and Councilwoman Grandal.
Ms. Brandon, go.
Also, on the flip side, so I have been to a couple of places, and like what I said before about the chemicals in the grow facilities, well, there isn't any. You can't have chemicals in the grow facilities because they won't pass the test that I've learned when they go to, the state doesn't allow that. So there wouldn't be runoff from that, I learned, because I was worried about the environmental part of it. I wanted to touch on too the additional staff, which is, fully loaded staff person, that we might need if we go forward with this. Not only in maybe the clerk's office, but maybe an ordinance. And also, I wanted to talk about how I went to some facilities. And very interesting, because I really had never been to one before this. And that might be like a lot of people out there. I went to a couple, and some of them are amazing. Like you go in, it's beautiful. It's very nice and clean. You can't smell anything. It has all the security in place. And then I went to a couple more down the street from this place. There's a bunch in a row, and I won't say the city, but the next one, they had all kinds of systems in place, like bulletproof glass, and like only a few at a time. And then I went to another place down the road, and it was chaos. Okay, so the room was filled with people. There was an open door to the back. So I don't know how much we could monitor that, or the state, or whoever. I also was told that the state looks at every single, business. They're logged into their system, and I thought, wow, how can they do that? How can they monitor all these places in the whole state of Michigan? Well, one of the persons that I went to that was a really, really nice place, he said, we said, no, we're not gonna do that. So they ended up just going through their city. So I think there's a lot of stuff that we might be told that is not gonna really happen, you know, and, you know, I went to one and they said they were gonna email me, you know, all these great things, nothing. So I'm hesitant to, you know, when they say they're gonna do all these great things, you know, what if they don't? Then what are you gonna do? They're already invested, they're already, the other thing was, like I said, I went to two that were great. Like one was amazing, the other one was clean and organized, the other one was complete chaos. How do we know which ones we're gonna get? I mean, and how do we, without choosing, like I said, I'm sure that, you know, we can learn from all of us and all of our experiences and from the attorneys that have worked really hard on all this, and Mr. Plato. But there, I was stunned at the differences. I thought, a lot of people told me that they're really nice and they're very organized and they're very clean. Some were not. So, and they were right down the street from each other. So, and the one that was not was the most crowded. It was the most crowded. It had all kinds of out-of-state license plates in the parking lot, and you know, it was overcrowded. There was, like I said, an open door to the back where the supplies were that I could, if I were anybody, I could just, you know, I'm sure they would let me, but I could physically. And so it was interesting to me the differences of each place. And then again, when we start to choose on certain criteria, then we're going to be stuck again. You know, where you chose them and not me, and whether we appoint a board or not, we're still choosing as a city, and then we're, you know, could be sued. So I'm hoping that between us all, we can figure out a way to do this so it doesn't get a big company putting it on the ballot.
Can I summarize what I think the question is, at least one within what you said? And to either attorneys, right? If we were, right, to, you know, new construction, or meeting our current codes and building restrictions, can we do that, or does somebody have the ability to take an old Taco Bell, paint it green, and sell marijuana? Is that fair enough? Right? How do we set the standards? And how can that, within what's occurred thus far, how could we do that?
If I may, through this.
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure, is that a fair question out of what you said, right? You saw differences in elevation, you saw differences in building types, you saw differences in security. Cleanliness. So, you know, I want to sum it down to a question.
Yeah, I don't know how we would choose those, and then after they were in there, how do we, you know, they're already invested and stuff, and, you know, how do we do that without, I think that everyone that I've talked to, the choosing of the winners, you know, because this is going to be very lucrative to a few. And so that's why I said, like, when we, in my opinion, when you're picking these zones and people already own it, you're essentially giving them maybe $1 million, you know, just by choosing their zone or their, you know what I mean? So are we really opening it up to free trade when we do that? And I get that those are the only places we can do it, but it's still picking those people that own those properties.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add to what Councilwoman Brandana has said. Based on other municipalities I represent, you're absolutely correct that even though the state has promised to police these facilities, they don't. They're very good at passing policy that should be observed, but it's going to be up to the city of Taylor if you pass this to police it. Don't consider relying upon the state if that's one of your important considerations to do, please.
Councilman Greco?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
size, elevation, things like that. You know, one of the things that is considered by many municipalities is with regard to, we call them dispensaries, but they're technically prohibiting centers or retailers, are they gonna allow drive-through, right? So the Taco Bell might be zoned the right way, but no, we can certainly put in regulations. They would be subject to